The first light of the sun touched the city of Memphis with a softness that seemed to glide across its rooftops rather than rise above them. The pale morning glow slipped over the mud brick houses, brushed the tops of palm trees, and washed gently across the broad streets leading toward the Temple of Ptah. The air still held the coolness of night, carrying with it the faint scent of the river and the distant breath of irrigated fields. Memphis was not yet awake, but it stirred in its own slow, ancient rhythm, as though the city breathed with the Nile itself. In a simple home near the artisan's quarter, a man named Kamos awoke on his reed mat to the muted murmur of pigeons cooing on the rooftop ledge. He lay still for a moment, listening to the subdued world around him. The soft crackle of the cooking fire his wife was rekindling, the whisper of her sandals brushing the packed earth floor, the distant sound of a vendor rolling back the shutters of his stall. The smells of the morning drifted toward him with tender familiarity. The earthy sweetness of barley flour, the faint smoke of burning twigs, the clean, quiet scent of freshly drawn water. As he rose, the linen of his tunic felt cool against his skin. He stepped into the courtyard, where a small fig tree cast faint shadows across the walls. The sky above was slowly brightening, turning from a soft violet into a calm shade of blue. In the lane beyond the house, neighbors greeted one another in low, unhurried voices, as though speaking too loudly might startle the peace the morning still held. Kamos ate a simple breakfast, flat bread still warm from the hearth, a few dates, and a cup of mild beer that eased the dryness of sleep from his throat. His daughter slipped quietly into the courtyard, her hair freshly braided, carrying a small clay figurine of a cow she had shaped the day before. She held it up for him, and he smiled, touching the smooth surface with a fingertip. She beamed silently, her eyes bright in the morning shade. When the sun finally crested the horizon, the city awakened more fully. The streets filled with the soft clatter of vendors preparing their goods. Bakers slid fresh loaves into their deep, conical ovens, the smell of rising heat mixing gently with the aroma of dough. Metal workers in the nearby workshops let their hammers fall in slow, measured taps, producing a muted music that echoed faintly among the alleyways. Fishermen carried their morning catch toward the marketplace, their nets still damp, their footprints leaving faint, dark trails in the dust. Kamos made his way through the streets, heading toward his day's work at the granary near the palace compound. The city unfolded before him in a quiet sprawl, shops with wide-open fronts displaying pottery, linen, baskets, or jars of fragrant oils. Narrow lanes lined with houses whose door curtains fluttered in the morning breeze, and broad avenues leading to the temple precincts where priests moved like pale ghosts in the rising light. Memphis carried the gentle hum of an ancient city at peace, shaped by routine and softened by countless days that had passed just like this one. Near the marketplace, the city grew livelier but never rushed. Merchants arranged their goods with practiced care, piles of onions catching the morning light, clay jars sealed with neat lumps of resin, bundles of herbs tied with straw. The scents mingled softly: coriander, garlic, lotus oil, honey, and the faint saltiness of dried fish. A flute player sat near the edge of the square, his melody calm and meandering, drifting through the air like a thin thread weaving through the city's heartbeat. Kamos passed through this gentle bustle and approached the granary complex, where tall walls enclosed wide courtyards and long, shaded storage rooms. The mud brick granaries rose like rounded pillars, their shapes designed to hold the harvest safely through the seasons. Inside, the air was cool and dry, carrying the faint, comforting smell of stored grain. Scribes sat at low tables, their palettes resting on folded cloths to keep dust from the ink cakes. Workers moved in steady rhythms, measuring, recording, and lifting baskets with the kind of quiet coordination that came from years of familiarity. Kamos greeted his fellow workers and took his place. His tasks were simple but steady, checking baskets of grain delivered from surrounding farms, smoothing the heaps inside the granaries so they settled evenly, helping count rations for labor crews. The work moved with a calm flow. Nothing urgent disrupted the gentle pace of the day. Even the scribes spoke softly, their voices blending with the faint rustle of papyrus and the echo of footsteps on packed earth. As the sun rose higher, warm light filtered into the courtyard, catching particles of dust that floated slowly in the air. Workers paused occasionally to drink from jars of cool water kept in the shade. The granary cat, a lean creature with pale fur, wandered among the baskets, stretching in the sun and blinking lazily at anyone who passed. Kamos watched it for a moment, enjoying the unhurried grace with which it moved. By late morning, the city outside had reached its daytime rhythm. Ox carts rolled along the main road, their wheels groaning softly. Priests walked toward the temple of Ptah, carrying small bundles of flowers for the morning rites. The faint echo of chants drifted from the sanctuary, their tones long and low, carrying a sense of reverence that spread through the surrounding streets like a gentle sigh. Perfumed smoke rose from censers inside the temple walls, carrying with it the warm, resinous scent of myrrh. Around midday, the heat grew fuller, but not harsh. Workers at the granary stepped into the shaded courtyard to rest and share a meal. Bread dipped lightly in oil, roasted beans seasoned with herbs, and a cup of beer that softened the dryness of the air. Conversations unfolded in soft murmurings. Comments about the river's level this season, news of relatives in nearby villages, small observations about the city's markets. Laughter flowed lightly, never loud, like ripples across a still pond. After the meal, Kamos rested briefly on a low bench beneath a palm awning. The warm breeze drifted across his face, carrying distant sounds from the street, donkeys braying softly, children calling to one another as they played near the well, the faint, rhythmic thud of a carpenter shaping wood. The city of Memphis, even at its busiest, seemed to move with a softness that calmed the mind. Nothing rushed, nothing pressed. Life followed a long-established rhythm guided by the river, the seasons, and the gentle pace of human hands. In the early afternoon, work resumed. A new shipment of grain arrived from a southern village, brought by boat along the canal. The workers moved with the same slow certainty as before, lifting heavy baskets with practiced care. The scribes made their marks, dipping their reed pens into black pigment and recording totals in neat vertical lines. Sunlight slanted across the courtyard, casting long, warm shadows that shifted gradually as the hours passed. Beyond the granary walls, the city continued its quiet movement. Linen dyers stirred vats of pigment, releasing faint scents of indigo and madder. Artisans carved small statues of gods, their tools tapping lightly against stone. Women shopped for vegetables, their baskets swinging gently at their sides. A young boy led a small goat through the marketplace, its hooves clattering softly on the ground. Everything carried the quality of a day unfolding without rush, layered in small sounds and subtle scents. As the sun leaned toward the horizon, the air softened once more. The workers at the granary completed their final tasks, smoothing the last heaps of grain and securing the doors with rope seals. Kamos washed his hands in a basin of cool water, letting the dust of the day slip away with the slow movement of his fingers. He stepped outside into the late afternoon light, which cast the city in gentle hues of gold and soft shadow. Walking home, he took a longer route through the heart of Memphis. The great temple of Ptah rose ahead, its walls glowing warmly as the sun kissed their smooth surfaces. The entrance courtyard filled with the quiet movement of priests completing the evening rites. A faint trace of incense drifted into the street, warm and fragrant. Pilgrims stood near the entrance, their posture relaxed, their voices low. Kamos paused to watch for a moment. The temple had stood here longer than his grandparents could remember, longer than the stories carried in the marketplace. It seemed eternal, resting in steady silence as the world outside changed slowly around it. He continued walking, feeling a familiar comfort in the presence of the sacred structure. Back in his neighborhood, the evening carried a gentle hum. Women stirred pots of lentils over small fires, the scents drifting lazily into the street. Children played with clay toys, their laughter soft and fluttering. Neighbors greeted one another with quiet warmth. The sky deepened into a calm, pale blue, streaked with gold from the setting sun. In his courtyard, Kamos's wife had prepared dinner. The simple meal filled the air with warm aroma, lentils seasoned with herbs, bread baked fresh that afternoon, and a small dish of figs. They ate slowly, savoring the flavors and the softness of the evening. Their daughter sat near them, shaping more clay into small figures, her fingers moving with quiet concentration. The flickering light from a small oil lamp cast rounded shadows on the courtyard walls, turning the space into a gentle cocoon of warmth. After the meal, the family sat together in the fading light. Voices from nearby homes blended gently with the distant murmur of the city settling into night. Across Memphis, lamps were being lit, their glow spreading softly across rooftops and streets. The breeze from the river drifted through the lanes, cooling the warm stones and carrying with it the scent of water and reeds. As darkness deepened, the city grew quieter still. The temple chants faded. The marketplace silence returned. Footsteps softened as people retired to their homes. The moon rose above the rooftops, casting its delicate light across the calm streets. Kamos lay down once more on his reed mat, feeling the cool breath of night settle around him. The sounds of Memphis, distant, muted, familiar, wrapped him in a sense of gentle timelessness. It was a city that breathed slowly, a place whose days flowed one into the next like the river that sustained it. He closed his eyes and let the quiet memories of the day drift through his mind. The soft morning light, the calm hum of work, the warm flavors of dinner, the soothing comfort of home. In that peaceful stillness, he felt the deep, steady heartbeat of Memphis, a city ancient, patient, and always unhurried, guiding him gently into sleep.